Listening Library presents Auggie Me, 3 Wonder Stories by R.J. Palacio. Read for you by Jonah Bromley, Hilary Huber, Dawson Griffin, and Lena J. Marano, with a note read by the author. This book is dedicated to the little girls who grew up to be Marta, Lisa, Lee, Carol, Fozia, Meg, and all my dear and cherished friends. Thank you for making me who I am today. RJP. Know you what it is to be a child? It is to be something very different from the man of today. It is to have a spirit yet streaming from the waters of baptism. It is to believe in love, to believe in loveliness, to believe in belief. It is to be so little that the elves can reach to whisper in your ear. It is to turn pumpkins into coaches, and mice into horses, lowness into loftiness, and nothing into everything. For each child has its fairy godmother in its own soul. It is to live in a nutshell, and to count yourself the king of infinite space. Francis Thompson, Shelley.
Introduction. Is there going to be a sequel to Wonder? Someone in the audience asks. No, I'm sorry, I answer, a little embarrassed. I don't think it's the kind of book that really lends itself to a sequel. I like to think that fans of Wonder will imagine for themselves what will happen next to Auggie Pullman and all the other people in his world. That exchange, or something like it, has happened at just about every book signing, speaking engagement, or reading I've done since Wonder came out on February 14th, 2012. It's probably the question I get asked the most, aside from, will there be a movie of Wonder? And, what inspired you to write Wonder? Yet, here I am, writing an introduction to a book that is, for all intents and purposes, a companion to Wonder. So how exactly did that happen? To answer that question, I have to discuss Wonder just a little bit. If you've bought this book or been given it as a gift, there's a good chance you've read Wonder already, so I don't need to tell you too much about it. Suffice it to say that Wonder is the story of a 10-year-old boy named Auggie Pullman who is born with a craniofacial difference as he navigates the ups and downs of being the new kid at Beecher Prep Middle School. We see this journey through his eyes and the eyes of several characters whose lives happen to intersect with his over the course of that pivotal year, and whose insights enhance the reader's understanding of Auggie's passage to self-acceptance. We don't hear from any characters whose stories don't directly expand upon Auggie's story within the time frame of that 5th grade year, or whose understanding of Auggie is too limited to shed light upon his character. Wonder is Auggie's story, after all, from beginning to end. And I was very strict with myself about telling his story in a simple and linear way. If a character didn't propel the narrative forward, or told a story that ran parallel to, or before or after the events in Wonder, then he or she didn't get a voice in the book. That's not to say that some of these other characters didn't have interesting stories to tell, however, stories that might have explained their own motivations a bit, even if those revelations didn't directly affect Auggie. Which is exactly where this book comes in. To be clear, Auggie Me is not a sequel. It doesn't pick up where Wonder left off. It doesn't continue to tell the story of Auggie Pullman navigating middle school. In fact, Auggie is only a minor character in these stories. What this book is precisely is an expansion of Auggie's world. The 3 stories in Auggie Me, the Julian chapter, Pluto, and Shingling, all originally published as short ebooks, are told from the perspective of Julian, Christopher, and Charlotte, respectively. They are 3 completely different narratives, telling the stories of characters who only occasionally, if at all, appear in each other's stories. They all do have one thing in common, though, which is Auggie Pullman. His presence in their lives serves as a catalyst by which they are each transformed in subtle and not so subtle ways. Auggie Me is also not a sequel in a traditional sense because there's no continuation of Auggie's story. other than a brief fast forward in Julian's chapter to the summer after 5th grade, which provides a nice coda to the Julian Auggie storyline. But other than that, readers don't find out what happens to Auggie Pullman in the 6th grade, or in high school or beyond. I can guarantee that that book, the de facto sequel, will never be written. And that's a good thing, folks. One of the most beautiful byproducts of writing Wonder is the amazing fan fiction it has generated. Teachers are using it in classrooms, asking students to get into character and write their own chapters on Auggie or Summer or Jack. I've read stories devoted to Via, Justin, and Miranda, chapters written from Amos's point of view and Miles and Henry's. I've even read one child's very poignant short chapter from Daisy's point of view. But perhaps the most touching story writing I've read has been about Auggie, with whom readers seem to have a passionate sense of involvement. I've had kids tell me they know for sure that Auggie will grow up to be an astronaut, or a teacher, or a veterinarian. They tell me these things with great, almost empirical authority, by the way. No dilly-dallying, no guesswork. So who am I to disagree with them? And why would I write a sequel that would limit all those options? Auggie, as far as I'm concerned, has a bright and amazing future full of infinite possibilities, each one as lofty as the next. I am truly blessed that readers of Wonder feel close enough to him to envision for themselves how his life will go. I know they understand that just because I chose to end Wonder on a happy day in Auggie's life, it doesn't guarantee him a happy life. He will surely face more than his fair share of challenges as he grows older, with new ups and downs, new friends, other Julians and Jacks, and of course, Summers. Readers will hopefully intuit from how Auggie has handled himself over the course of his first year at Beecher Prep, with all its accompanying trials and tribulations, that he has what he needs inside of him to triumph over whatever life hurls his way, withstand the challenges as they come, stare down the starers, or laugh them away. There with him always, through good times and bads, will be his amazing family, Isabel and Nate and Via. The only thing I know that truly heals people is unconditional love, wrote Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, which may be why Auggie will never succumb to any wounds inflicted by the careless words of passers-by or the choices of his friends. Those he has, too, friends both known and unseen, who will stand up for him when it counts the most. In the end, readers of Wonder know that the book has never really been about what happens to Auggie Pullman. It's about how Auggie Pullman happens to the world. Which brings me back to this book, or, more accurately, the 3 stories contained in Auggie Me. When it was first suggested to me that I write these short ebooks, these Wonder stories, I jumped at the chance, most specifically on behalf of Julian, who had become a much-loathed persona among Wonder fans. Keep calm and don't be a Julian is even something you can Google now, as people have taken it upon themselves to make their own cautionary posters. Keep calm and don't be a Julian. And I completely get why Julian is so disliked. Until now, we've only seen him through the eyes of Auggie, Jack, Summer, and Justin. He's rude. He's mean. His stares, his nicknames for Auggie, his efforts to manipulate his classmates to turn against Jack are tantamount to bullying. But what's at the root of all this rage against Auggie? What's up with Julian? And why is he such a jerk? Even as I was writing Wonder, I knew that Julian had a story to tell. I also knew that his story of bullying, or why he bullies, was of little consequence to Auggie and had no impact on the storyline, and therefore didn't belong in Wonder. It's not for the victims of bullying to find compassion for their tormentors, after all, but I love the idea of exploring Julian's character in a short book of his own, not to exonerate his actions, since his actions in Wonder are reprehensible and indefensible, but to try to understand him better. It's important to remember that Julian is still just a little kid. He has acted badly, yes, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's a bad kid. Our mistakes don't define us. The hard part is coming to
Sample complete. Ready to continue?